Five, get the facts with Folan, guys. Good morning from Singapore. I am stoked because I get to go outside today. This is it, day 15. I mean, it's only supposed to be 2 weeks. They say extend the full day, so I am headed outside right after this interview. All right, so today we're taking you to Indonesia, very, very famous spot in Southeast Asia, and specifically to the island of Bali. So he has joined. Let's get him in. Fingers crossed this works. Yeah, go frogs. Yeah, hey, good morning. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Good. All right, introduce yourself. Say your name, where you are, and how we met. You can either tell that story. I'll happily tell it.
Sure. The name is Amin, and I'm in Bali, Indonesia at the moment. We actually met in Jerusalem, in Old City.
Yes, we did.
In
Heck
a
yeah.
hostel next to Masjid al-Aqsa, and I think there was a couch outside, and you were sitting there. And I went
Exactly.
to my room, and we started chatting. And I think maybe we chatted for an hour, and in that hour, you designed my whole itinerary for Australia.
Exactly. I
Like,
was so stoked. Yeah, it was. Clearly, I'm passionate about traveling. That hasn't changed, and no, it's been fun keeping up with each other ever since. And since then, you're now living in Indonesia. Total career change, and you're specific. Like last time we saw each other was just, I think, almost a year and a half ago in Sonor. You're now living in Ubud, which is, guys, that's like one of the most famous cities in all of Bali. Can you show them the view from your balcony real quick? Because it just to give everyone a feel for what Bali's.
Hold on a second. Let me just take this phone out. And then
Look at that.
So this is from my balcony. I live in a small house, very close to center of Ubud, and behind me is my bedroom. So I get up in the morning and I get to look at this.
Not a bad place to wake up to. Guys, Ubud is such a green city. Like when you think of Bali, the rice terraces, that's the spot. It's a very, very beautiful. All the monkey temple or the monkey forest, like that. A lot of monkeys there as well. So super beautiful place if you ever get to Bali. So let's dive into. It's crazy that you can't hear any motorbikes. It's crazy you're not hearing the city awake. What's COVID-19 done to Bali's tourism?
It's like hitting a wall.
Yeah.
That's the best way of describing it, right? Slowly, the Indonesian authorities started to issue directives on, hey, if you are a tourist, you might want to go home. And I think, all of the embassies around the world, the US, for example, the State Department is at a level 4, and they've been encouraging people to go home. And so over the last 3 weeks or so, there's been an exodus of people, no tourists. There's still expats living here like myself. There are still people backpackers and so on, who are on different visa types. They're still here, some of them.
Yeah.
But it's dead, and many hotels are closed. The occupancy was in single digits, right, where the cost of operating the hotel is more than you're making. So it's essentially quiet. It's peaceful. It's nice. It's serene. You actually get to hear the birds, and you get to see the scenery without any pollution, any noise. But it is dead, and it's an impact on the local economy, right? Because Bali is very dependent on tourism, and so there are many people who are on unpaid leave from their employment. Many of them live paycheck to paycheck, right? So I think your viewers will understand the kind of picture I'm painting. But people are optimistic, right? It is Bali. Bali is known for being a very community-oriented place. That's definitely the way of living. So communities are stepping in. The government is stepping in to some extent. People like myself, expats, are stepping in to help as much as possible. So it's quiet, and it's dead at the moment.
That's just it. That I don't think Bali's ever been like that in decades, right? I mean, it's crazy to think. Bali is one of the most famous destinations in Southeast Asia, right? I mean, most U.S. citizens, if they've been to Asia, you gotta probably 80% chance that they went to Bali, right? That's the spot that they went to. And it's just I was supposed to be there starting 4 days ago, right? We were going to have a reunion. It's going to be doing my scuba diving. I was actually hoping, I was trying to race there before the border closed, but it clearly did not work out. Singapore worked out fine. I'm glad I'm here. Because I was hoping I could just scuba dive for 2 months, but now the scuba shops are even closed down. So it's a very, very weird time. What's it like? I mean, are grocery stores staying awake? How are you getting your food? Is the town still kind of running?
There are some things which are open. The grocery stores are open, but for abbreviated hours.
Okay.
So yesterday, because I had to do a refill yesterday, so I show up at the grocery store at 6:45, not realizing they close at 7. Normally they close at 10.
Oh, no way.
So I'm running around trying to get stuff,
Speed shopping.
But yeah, grocery stores are open. There are a few shops, like the Circle K's, the 7-Eleven equivalents.
Okay.
Those are open, but the 24-hour shops are open for 10 hours, right?
Wow. So they really have, that's interesting. So the government still has done a bit. It's interesting because, not to get too political here, but the president of Indonesia announced that he had hid cases of COVID-19. So he never really acknowledged it until quite later. In the first case, I think it was a British woman in Bali. And so it's just the numbers, it's kind of like the US where they're playing catch up, especially in Jakarta, right? On different islands. It's going to be interesting to see. I mean, I hope they can get on top of this just because there's so many beautiful spots to see in Indonesia.
Yes.
But my visa, I got a 60-day visa. I hope I can use it, right? They only give you 3 months to enter the country, or else it expires. So it'll be interesting to see a spot like Indonesia. How will they still accept visas that expired in that window because the country is closed? I mean, same with Australia, right? Same with a lot of these, but New Zealand as well. All these working holiday visas as well. What will these countries do to these, travelers that were supposed to enter the time? So it's going to be of course, let's end the virus first, but it'll be interesting to see what these governments do to allow travelers will they honor these visas, or will they be like, well, we haven't had much income lately, let's recharge them all and double up on the visas. So let's hope that's not the case.
Well, they've done a good thing. So people who stayed in the country, so many people come in on what's called a VOA visa on arrival. Maybe you got that when you came last year. And so when you enter, you get it at the airport, and it's good for 30 days.
Okay.
But you can renew it one more time, right?
Mm-hmm.
But to renew it, you can renew it for another 30 days. But to renew it, you have to go to immigration.
Right. It's like a 3-day process. Yeah, because I was looking at doing that. Yeah.
It's a process. And so people started to do that, and the authorities were like, no, we don't want you to come here and hang out, right? There's COVID-19, you need to go back to your place, right? So they basically issued a regulation which said, if you're in the country on a visa and you cannot return back home, all of those people get an emergency stay permit, an ESP, I think it's called, without the need of having to go to immigration, which is a major revenue generator for them. Plus, if you overstay, imagine you get the renewal.
Well, they charge Indonesia charge. I think it's like $25 a day if you overstay.
More increased. It's like $75 a day now.
Oh gosh. So they've extended these visas.
Yeah, it's automatic extension. You don't have to go stand in line at immigration. If you are past your expiration, you just stay put. And I wonder how will they find everybody once this is gone, or once it's better. You say, okay, guys, now you got to get out of the country, right? Visas. I mean, they have a good tracking system. They can, they have all the information in their system.
Right.
How do they physically locate you? That's going to be interesting.
Good luck. I mean, it could be done, but wow, that's hide and go seek for some people, right? Like that will not be super. Wow, interesting.
And in a nation of 17,000 islands. Now, granted, some of them are tiny, right? But 80% of the population lives on 3 or 4 islands. But given that, now some person is on some remote island somewhere without any internet, I don't know how they're going to find that person. But
not exactly. They could disappear, have an island to themselves the rest of their life. I mean, Until they catch them buying their groceries. Once they run out of food or run out of coconuts on the island, then they'll run into some trouble. That's, man, it's just, it's those big things that I don't even, I mean, of course, governments, I'm sure they're talking about it, but, you know, your main focus is ending COVID-19, but there's just, what a weird time in that sense. I mean, it's a very weird time in general, but that's fascinating, is how will it, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how these governments deal with it. Enough with COVID-19. Let's dive into traveling, right? Because Indonesia, specifically Bali, is such a great place to get to. So in your opinion, what are the top 3 must-see spots, either for the whole country or specifically Bali?
So I'll start with Bali. So for me, and I'll also extend it to spots and experiences. Yeah. So in Bali and Nusa Penida, it's an island off the coast of Bali. I think everybody knows about this island now. It's almost over touristed, but it is still stunning. Kelingking Beach, right? That's iconic.
It's so good, guys. That's the famous T-Rex Beach. If you Google T-Rex Beach, no joke, it is one of the most beautiful beaches on the world. I love it. And you have to climb all the way down, so hardly anybody gets to the bottom. So you typically share it with maybe less than 20 people at a time.
Yes.
So,
but you are standing in line for that Instagram spot, but it's
up top.
worth it.
Yes,
up top. It's worth it. It's beautiful. It's I have so many photos from there.
Oh yeah.
So Kelingking Beach, they have Diamond Cove. They have Atu Beach, and Atu Beach is on the other side, and it's like it's this long scooter ride, but it is also stunning. So I would say Nusa Penida is still a must-do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Come to this part of the world.
Have you been recently? So someone was telling me, have they paved most of the roads now? Like when Katie and I were there, it was dirt roads and it was a horrible bike ride. I've heard now it's much better. Is that true?
So when I went, I think it's been a little over a year. Half of the island is paved.
Yeah.
So the one going towards the Atu Beach area, it's paved. New roads, right? You can ride a scooter, no problem. And the other side is still dirt roads. And what I understand is there is a fight within one part of the island with the contractor, but they've given money and the contractor just hasn't done their job. And then on the other side, the one with the paved roads, the contractor did his job or her job, right?
Interesting. Okay. Huh. Guys, if you want a crazy motorbike ride, try it. If they haven't paved the roads, it is a bumpy, dangerous ride. So just go slow. Like you gotta be safe.
Go slow, yes.
Golly. All right. What's number 2 on your list?
All right. So I'm gonna extend this to an experience, not
perfect.
So the experience, it's called Nyepi, and we just had this about a week and a half ago.
Okay.
So Nyepi represents the start of the Balinese New Year. And the day prior to Nyepi, there is a procession. It's called Ogo Ogo, where all of these different communities of Banjars, they create massive, think of it as a float or as a parade. They create these massive figures, which look ghoulish, and they represent the devil, right? And
interesting.
And they parade those around town. And so different parts of Bali has these parades. Of course, it canceled for this time. So I attended it last year. And so the notion is they create these ghoulish, devilish looking figures. They parade them around town and then they burn them. And then they put them in the ocean, right? So it's symbolic of getting rid of the evil spirits from Bali.
Okay.
And that happens at night prior to Nyepi. And then starting that night, 6 o'clock in the morning, there's everything is cut off in terms of internet, in terms of communication, and that's the start of the Balinese New Year. That's the New Year day, and that's
interesting.
And that's supposed to be spent meditating, reflecting, starting for the New Year.
This is that day of silence, correct?
Yes, day of silence.
Okay,
yes.
okay.
Yes.
I did not realize there was a parade aspect, and I had no idea the background. Interesting. I'm glad you explained that, because I was very curious. What that was, because people had told me, well, even you, we were messaging you like, I don't know if Wi-Fi is going to be knocked out because it's the day of silence. So
right. And so that day, they turn off Wi-Fi, they turn off comm, and that evening you're supposed to leave all the lights off, no lights, right? And so the entire island is shrouded in darkness. Of course, even the airport is closed. right? There are no flights on that.
Wow.
Yeah, everything is shut off, and the thinking is you start the day in darkness so you don't attract evil spirits back again.
Fascinating. And so that's not just Bali, right? So that's all of Indonesia that does this day?
That's just Bali.
It is just Bali. Ah, okay. Okay.
It is just Bali. Because it's the Balinese tradition. It's the Balinese New Year. So it's just Bali. And I've seen pictures of this. It's kind of cool because you can see stars which you don't normally see, right? Because of all the millions of stars. Yeah. And I've seen pictures from satellite imagery where Bali, normally it's a bright spot, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's dark. So you don't see anything in that part of the world.
That's wild. I would say yeah. What? So does it typically fall on the same day each year? I mean, is it a Friday or Saturday? Or does it rotate? Okay.
I think it's the same. Was it the 23rd this year? March 23rd, something like that. I remember it being around the same last year as well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It sounds like a cool experience. I mean, what a unique time to be in Bali. Like, hopefully the tourists respect that as well. This probably was one of the most quiet day of silence they've ever had, with everyone being gone. But wow, very unique experience. All right, so what's number 3 on your list?
All right, number 3. Okay, so now this kind of depends on what you like to do, right? Like what I've done, a couple of things. Bali and Indonesia as a whole, rich for hiking and climbing mountains, right? So in Bali, Mount Agung is the active volcano, so you don't actually climb that, but there are other mountains in Bali which you can climb. There's Mount Rinjani in the island of Lombok, which is one island over. There is Mount Bromo in Java. And then, there are a couple of other places. There's one, I forget the name now. I've not done this one yet, but there's the one with the sulfur lake.
Oh, Ajin, I think. IJIN. I was supposed to go there. That was on my itinerary. Yep.
That was on your list, yes. So you can do that. That's something worth doing. And even the one in Bali, it's amazing. You start at 1 o'clock in the morning, right? You do your hike. It's a sunrise hike. You're trying to get to the top so you can catch sunrise. It's beautiful. On the way down, actually on the top, you see the sunrise, but you see, it's called Mount Batur, right? So you see this beautiful Batur lake. And then you make your way down and you see the lake on the way down. So that's a fun thing to go do. So my plan was to go to, so there's another thing which is a must do, which I haven't done yet, which is the Komodo Islands, Komodo and Rinca.
Oh my gosh, I was supposed to go there as well. I was, yes, Komodo Islands.
Yeah.
The only place in the world you can see the Komodo dragons.
Yes.
And, that was on the list.
Me too. I was supposed to do that this month in April with some friends of mine, but all of that stuff is canceled now, right? But that's supposed to be amazing. So I think that's another sort of top 3. And then the last thing I'll recommend, and I know this is more than 3 now.
That's okay.
But Bali is the sort of the spiritual cultural center, right, for Hinduism, Balinese Hinduism in Indonesia. There's another city called Yogyakarta or Jogja in the island of Java. And Jogja used to be a kingdom on its own, with its own kingdom within the island of Java, within the democratic system in Indonesia.
Interesting.
Rich with cultural heritage, history. It's a young, vibrant sort of town. Many great universities in Indonesia are there. It's museums, things to eat, right? So I would highly recommend, that's another thing not to miss, is just to go spend a few days in Jogja and just walk the streets.
No, very cool. Yeah, I haven't even heard of that city, so there you go. More travel advice for me. When I eventually get into Indonesia, we'll be going. Just to real quick to highlight, as I always do, the wildlife in Indonesia. You guys, like as you mentioned, the Komodo Islands, insane. If you've never heard of them, look them up, because like the hiking there, the wildlife you can see is incredible. But then, so within a week, you could do Komodo Islands, which let's extend to 2 weeks. All right, Komodo Islands for at least a few days. You're gonna fly out there, enjoy it, get on a boat, do a 3-4 day tour. Then you can go to Nusa Penida. You can scuba dive. It's one of the places in the world you're practically guaranteed to see manta rays. There's a couple cleaning spots where you can dive, see them, which is insane. But then 3, there's Sumatra, which is another island. It's one of the few places in the world that has orangutans as well as tigers and rhinos. So that's a great place to trek. And then also Indonesia owns a part of Borneo. So there's surprisingly a lot. I mean, as you said, there's literally thousands of islands. Indonesia is thousands of islands. So look on the map, see all of those. But there's so much to do in this country as well.
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned the Borneo part. So yeah, so Kalimantan is the part of Indonesia, and I did a 3-day. I should have mentioned this. Another highly recommended thing, like you said, it's a 3-day boat tour. And you get a boat for yourself, right? And you're on this river which goes through the national park. You sleep, wash, eat everything on the boat. The crew helps you with all that. Not the washing part, right? But and then every day you're stopping like 3 or 4 times at different spots, because they've set up, the park rangers have set up feeding stations for the orangutans, right? So it's almost like they've cordoned this area off, and they've set up chairs. You're far away, right? And they've set up the feeding station. They put bananas and they put other kinds of food, and then you can just watch the orangutans come and eat, and you're basically observing in silence. So that was an amazing experience. So I would highly recommend that too.
There's something special about seeing orangutans in the wild. I mean, it's cool to see, you know, like, I don't know, now that once you start seeing all these animals in their natural habitat, zoos just don't do it for me anymore. It's just experiences like that, you just can't beat it, especially these orangutans. Like, just such graceful animals. Sandy just had a question. Brent, why didn't you do Komodo? Sandy, I didn't do Komodo because I was supposed to be there in 2 weeks. The flights have been canceled, so there's literally no way to go. So fingers crossed I can go when these borders open back up. But April is like the perfect month to go. But that's okay. There's still a decent sized window to get to Komodo. Let's dive into food. What's been some of your favorite foods from Indonesia or Bali specifically?
Food, well, there is so much here, but I'll give you my top 3. Yeah. So my absolute favorite is something called martabak, and it's from the island of Java. It's heavily influenced from the Middle East.
Okay.
But you can find it like in any food stall in Denpasar. Actually, when we met in Sanur, we ate at the night market. Do you remember?
It's one of the best night markets on the island. Absolutely.
Yeah. In that same enclosure, we might have walked past one of the stalls, but they were making martabak there. So martabak, it's bread, right? It's 2 layers, and in the middle, you have a variety of different kinds of meats and cheeses and so on. So you get martabak telur. Telur is egg. So that's one kind of martabak, and that's what I just described. So there's always egg. And then there is either, if you eat meat, there's chicken, there's beef, or there's a vegetarian version as well. I stopped eating meat like maybe 3 years ago now. Right? So I love the mushroom with cheese version. So that's fantastic.
Ooh.
You can eat it anytime, and there's a dessert version as well. And I have a bit of a sweet tooth.
Awesome.
And so that's, so martabak manis. So manis means sweet. So martabak manis is a sweet version. So I would highly recommend eating martabak. That's one of my favorites.
Sounds good. Sounds very good.
Calories and but it's great. To me, it's like having pizza after you've had a night of drinking.
Perfect. Yep.
Yeah. So and actually, some of my friends visited here in Indonesia. They live in Georgia. They live outside of Atlanta. And so they get home and they find a martabak distributor in Philadelphia. There's an Indonesian guy in Philadelphia who has a shop. Right?
No
and so
way.
Make the martabak for you, and he'll ship it to your house anywhere in the U.S.
No way.
My friends, so they basically ordered a bunch of martabak. They had all of my friends who live in Atlanta. I lived outside of Atlanta for a little bit. Yeah. And they had a martabak party, and they basically FaceTimed me from there, and we had a martabak party together. So that was a lot of fun.
Too funny. Yeah. Who would have guessed? What a smart businessman. Great. Yeah, great idea. Interesting. All right, what's number 2?
Number 2 for me, it's ikan pepes, which is steamed fish in a banana leaf. It has spices, right? I eat a lot of fish, so I would say that's number 2. Awesome. And number 3 is nasi campur, and so campur means mix, and nasi is rice, mixed rice, and that's probably what you had that night at the market, because
yes, exactly.
It's rice, and typically there are little bits of different kinds of vegetables and tempeh and tofu, and a little bit of meat, right? So that's a very balanced meal for Indonesian. In fact, for Indonesia, if you don't have rice, in your meal, it's not considered a meal, right? Like the martha would be considered a snack, not a meal.
Good to know.
I would
yeah.
say, nasi champur is like number 3.
Guys, the street food, like you mentioned, the Sanur night market. There's a lot of night markets just across Indonesia, but specifically Sanur, which is where you catch your ferry to Nusa Penida. Spend the night there, get to the night market because it is so good. Lots of options and incredibly cheap. It's really not tough when you're. I mean, you're going to spend a couple, maybe 2, if you want to go crazy, maybe $5 on a meal. I mean, it's incredibly cheap, but the quality wise, you get a lot of bang for your buck, which is fantastic. Are there any weird foods that you've seen, anything strange out of the ordinary that would be surprising for Westerners?
So I've seen it. I've not eaten it. There's a dish, I forget, it's called luwar. And what it is it's vegetables and coconut, and it's sauteed in it's called luwar mera. Yeah, mera means red, okay? Luwar mera. So it's vegetables,
I feel like I know where this is going.
Coconut, and fresh pig blood.
Pig blood, that's so strange. Yeah, and like, is it a popular dish? I mean, people do order it.
People eat it. I've seen signs for it. Like I don't eat meat, so I wouldn't try this. But it's mera means red, and hence pig blood gives the red color to this dish. So you'll see.
Interesting.
Yeah. So luwar mera, that's one sort of odd dish.
Yeah.
And you can also find. Yeah.
Wait, I had a real quick question, because you said it's pig's blood, right? Now, Indonesia is a Muslim country, so can you find that only in Bali, or is that across the?
You can find it in Bali, and it's a Balinese dish.
Okay.
Balinese dish, yeah.
Yeah.
But speaking of Muslim country and pork, and so Bali, yes, there is pork because this is predominantly a Hindu island.
Right.
But there are other islands which are predominantly a specific religion, right? And so there's an island which is predominantly Christian. So you will find pork over there, right?
Interesting.
And predominantly Muslim islands, you won't find pork.
Yeah. It would be interesting to see the religion map on how the influence over the year. I mean, with so many islands, right? I mean, of course, you're going to have separation and different religions are going to take off. So,
right.
Wow, yeah, it's a whole nother conversation, but just something interesting to think about. And wow, what a unique dish to try. Maybe next time I'm in Bali, I'll need to find that. I mean,
I'll go with you.
Yeah, we'll find it together.
I don't try it.
A healthy vegetables, but soaked in marinated in pig's blood. So you still that's just interesting, very interesting. What about any stereotypes? I mean, moving to Bali was a big move. Anything that like true or false that was proved when you got there, or since you've been living there?
I'll talk about Indonesia as a whole, right? And then so actually first for Bali, I think everyone knows Gateway to Heaven, which is this these sort of iconic pillars. It's supposed to be a gate, right, with the mountain in the back, and there's supposed to be a pool of water.
The beautiful reflection pool. Not true.
Not true. Not true. It's actually sand and dirt in front. And what they figured, and I've actually not been there because I heard about this. I'm like, I'm not gonna stand in line for 3 hours to do this, right? But it's actually a mirror under the lens of the camera, which gives this reflective pool quality, right? So whoever figured that out, genius, right? But
so it's 3 guys. It is the funniest. Katie and I'll admit it. We waited in a 3-hour line. It was a long wait. We were ready for like, okay, maybe an hour. No, 3 hours. Luckily, we had fun people in line with us. But it was 3 guys working the cameras. So there's 3 Indonesians sitting together. There's one holding the umbrella for the other 2. The second one is holding the cameras. And the third is holding this small little reflective piece to make it look like a pool. So they've got a very, very good system. And you get, for a 3-hour wait, you get 20 seconds at the gate. That's it. So you got, if you're doing multiple poses, you better go quick, baby, because that time flies.
Yeah. So that's one stereotype. It's not real, right? The other stereotype, I would say, broadly speaking, people might have the view. People know Bali about Indonesia. Some people think Bali is a separate country. I get that sometimes. I'm like, which country are you in? I'm in Indonesia. They're like, oh, I thought you were in Bali. I'm like, yes, Bali. I get some of that sometimes, right? But there seems to be some notion that, yes, Bali, Indonesia is part of the developing world. It's a developing country. But people seem to think there's some notion that the people are not as educated, not as advanced, and so on, right? But I would argue that Jakarta, the capital, is, yes, it's a teeming city with millions of people, but the people are highly educated. It's the tech hub of Indonesia, right? There are some unicorns which are based in Jakarta.
Yeah.
And there are many, many people who have gone and studied overseas in the US and other places who are back and working at consultancies, big banks, like all the companies we know, all the institutions we know from back home, they all have a presence here, right? So it's a thriving capital. It's highly educated. It's quite wealthy. It's quite advanced, economically developed. So I would say that might be a stereotype which people might have. It's not Singapore, but
right. But still, it's going to be way different than many people would imagine. I would say for the better. I mean, it's just. I mean, like you said, I mean, there's this mentality that people have when they think of Asia, and when they finally get here, especially getting to the big cities, I think it's totally thrown away. It is. There are skyscrapers, like there are tall buildings, there's skyscrapers, right? I mean, it is what you would expect in any major city around the world, and so that is definitely surprising to a lot of people. Another question. What's been your favorite thing about living in Bali?
For me, Bali is fascinating. So when I met you last year in Sanur, I was living beachside, right?
Yeah.
The night market is very close to the beach. Beautiful, right? It's a nice, calm area. But what I liked about Bali is the beach, the mountains, the jungle, which is where I'm living now. It's all in one place. Right, so you can basically spend a couple of weeks and experience everything, different kinds of climate, different kinds of topology, different kinds of weather. Right, so over here where I'm sitting now, it's nice and cool.
Right.
It feels nice, like I'm not sweating. But if I were in Sanur now, it would be steaming hot, like it would be in the 80s, right, for Fahrenheit. And so in the same island, you get to experience all of these different things. Without having to go to multiple countries. So I really, really enjoy that about Bali. And of course, the people are incredible over here. Indonesia in general, Indonesians in general are incredible. Balinese are amazing, very welcoming, giving. It's just a nice way of living life, right? People are just living in peace.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. It's I get it's a common theme of the world, especially Southeast Asia. Everyone is just so welcoming. There's a great couch surfing community there. I had a buddy that took us. We got to meet his family. Took us to a religious ceremony, which was fascinating to see, and complete strangers inviting us to go with them. It was just something totally magical that was thanks to couch surfing. It would have never happened. So, all right. So I got one more question for you. Hopefully you can come up with something interesting. What's one thing about Bali that would surprise people?
Oh, wow. Okay. I'll talk about Indonesia as a whole.
Perfect.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe this is not that surprising, but there are 6 official religions in this country.
Huh. 6. Do you know the 6?
6. So Muslim. It's predominantly a Muslim country. There are 260 million people in Indonesia, and I think the vast majority of them are Muslims. But there's Islam, there Catholicism, Protestants, right? So two different brands of Christianity. Hinduism, Hindus, Buddhists, and Confucius. Right? So those are the 6 religions. So you must belong to one of those 6. And what the surprising part is, if for someone to get married to another person, the 2 have to be of the same religion.
Whoa! So someone, like, do people convert, or will they not even date someone from the other religion?
People convert. So Balinese Hindus tend to marry other Balinese Hindus, right? There's a society structure here. There's a bit of a caste system that still exists. You don't see it out in the open, but that still exists a little bit. But if you marry across religions, one person has to convert to the other person's religion, and it's typically the woman who's converting to the man's religion. Not always, but you see a lot of.
Wow.
coming from the West, like I found that strange that first of all, you must belong to one of 6 religions. In fact, when you get your national identity card, I believe the religion is on the identity card. It's called
No
KTP.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you need to belong to a religion to get a KTP. and once you're there, once you get your KTP, you're fine. But when you get married across religions, one person has to convert.
Very interesting. Wow. That's a very good fun fact. I did not know that. Wow. A country that makes you pick one. That's very, very interesting. Mine is not as fascinating, guys. I was just going to say, the monkeys in Bali, you need to be very careful. They will rob you. Like, the monkeys can be quite mean. If you go to different temples, there's different spots around Bali that are hot spots for monkeys, and they're so used to humans that they will steal your cell phone just to steal your cell phone. I've been robbed by monkeys twice on my travels around the world, once in India and once in Bali. So be careful with the monkeys as well when you get there. My man, thank you so much for taking the time out of your very peaceful, beautiful morning. That view, I'm very jealous. That is a very good spot to be quarantined at.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah.
And I know I'm standing now between you and going out after 15 days, so go enjoy.
I'm stoked, man. As soon as this call ends, boom, I'll beelining outside to get some fresh air. But I want you to say your parting words to the world. What is your message that you would like to spread?
I would just say, stay safe, stay optimistic, stay healthy. Right? Do all the these are obvious things now. Do the social distancing. If you're not worried about yourself, worry about your loved ones. Yeah. This will pass. This will pass, and we will emerge stronger. I feel this is the Earth taking back what we've been taking from the Earth, right?
Very true.
From around us, and so you see things returning back to normal. It will take time, but stay strong, and we will and keep your connections going, right? Like we're doing now.
Exactly.
It's hard, but it's important that we keep that going.
Yeah, so, we're so lucky. We're so lucky having the technology that we do, where we're able to still be face to face, even though we're social distancing. So, man, thank you so much. And the second one, he said, this is the Earth taking one deep breath, and it's like this. It sucks, yes, being stuck inside, but it's amazing to see how the Earth is recovering from years of crazy destruction. So. I'm excited for when the borders eventually open back up. I will never take advantage of hanging out with my friends or just meeting new people ever again. It's something I've loved, but now it's going to be that much more special after having to distance. I mean, we've got another month here in Singapore of having to stay away from people. So as an extrovert, that is the most difficult thing ever. But thank goodness for Instagram Live, where you can still chat with your friends and have a face-to-face conversation. So with that, guys, next 2 episodes real quick. Tonight in Asia, tomorrow morning in the United States, we're headed to Cairo, Egypt. Going to see how Egypt is handling COVID-19, as well as give you tips on what to do there. Again, Egypt has so much to offer, a fun place to travel. And then in 24 hours tomorrow night in the United States, we're headed back to South America, headed to Colombia, Bogota, Colombia. So with that, please stay at home. Please stay inside. Wash your hands, and let's get through this together. Man, thanks so much. Stay safe in Bali, and looking forward to catching up when I can finally enter the country. So hopefully that's sooner rather than later.
I'll see you soon.
Take care.
Thanks. All right, you too.